Hello and welcome back to KNF Design. If you're new here, my name is Katie and I try to bring a wide variety of different craft projects to you. If you ever have a craft project you would like me to show you how to make or just want to see me try to make it, let me know down below and I'll try my best to bring that to you. If you like today's craft project, make sure to hit those thumbs up. It really does mean a lot to me and it helps bring my crafting videos to more crafters like you. Don't forget to also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you don't miss out on any of our crafting fun. So with that, let's get crafting. In the past, I did these cards showing different ways to add this nice glittery shim foil to cards just to make them shine. So this was one. I showed you two different techniques and it kind of showed if you use the correct foil versus not the correct foil what happens. And I did it two different ways. And I absolutely loved doing it this way. It was super easy if you have the right supplies. And this was with this deco foil and a laminator. Not a fancy laminator by any means, just a cheap laminator. Nothing fancy needed. Fancier ones are nice, but if you don't have them, that's okay. In order to do this technique, you do need a laser printer. So the laser printer, not the typical inkjet printer. That's how it works with the heat and all of that. I just did one color, simple, done. If you have not watched that, and it's great to tell you about the different types of foil to use so you don't have all this extra unless you want it. I think it actually kind of turned out cool with the extra. It's not quite picking it up. Definitely watch this video first before this video, and I'll link that down below. This video, I'm going to show you if you want to add multiple colors. It gets more tricky, it's a little more advanced, and there's more room for error. But I'm hoping it's possible, and it's not too messy. So we'll see how it goes, but definitely watch this first if you have not. This is the beginner, this is a little more advanced. I'm going to be using these colors. I'm still debating if I want to just do a vinyl for the green or to foil it. It'll kind of depend how it goes. But I'm going to do an Easter themed card, but my mom loves rabbits. Mother's Day is coming up, and I think it would also be pretty for a Mother's Day card. So I'm just going to say Mother's Day on the sentiment, but it definitely works for Easter as well. So we have this really pretty pearl color, which is going to be for the bunny, a gold, a green, and a pink, so flowers and leaves. And I'll show you my design here in a little bit. And then I'm going to use this cardstock here. Now for this foiling, do not use a textured cardstock, something nice and smooth and a little sturdier than computer paper. Computer paper won't pick up that ink very well. Ideally white would be better, but because these colors, the gold and the pearl, might not show up the best on a white cardstock, that's why I'm doing a color. So yeah, a little riskier with color and a little riskier with doing multiple colors. But just a sturdy, smooth cardstock. The better your cardstock, the better that ink will transfer. So go with that. Now if you don't have a laminator or laser printer, by all means, you can use my design and make other cards like we did here with the Cricut foil or the foil quill. And I will also link these down below. You can do this technique. This design can be used with these as well. I just wanted to do the laminating version. But just so you know, if you don't have these supplies, you can still use my design to make beautiful cards. And if you don't want to foil at all, you could use the pen and have your Cricut draw everything. Or you could, it's a little small detail, but you could use vinyl as well. So you can use it in a different way besides what I'm doing here. So look at those down below if you haven't seen those. They're fun. But yeah, it's a bunny that we're going to make. And in order to get the different colors, you could do, first off, we want to print the bunny or your design in black ink. Yes, my flowers are going to be like pink, but if I do the pink, not as much of that ink transfers to the paper, which means it won't pick up the foil when it's laminated as well. So it's better the black ink that has the most pigment that will get you the best results. So we're going to print everything in black and layer it. So first I'm going to print the bunny, lay down my foil, laminate. Run it through the printer again for, let's say, pink flower, lay down the foil, laminate, and keep going. You could also just print the bunny and it's all solid black color, and then cut the foil to lay exactly just for the bunny, just for your pink flowers, and piece it all together and laminate it all at once as well. Sometimes I think that's a little hard to, with the flowers and everything being so close, I think that's going to be hard to do, but you could do that if you don't mind some overlap, or if you're really good at cutting precisely. That is an option as well. But I'm going to do the layering technique. So let's actually look at the design now, and we'll go from there. So here is our bunny design, and we will first want to hit the ungroup button so we can manipulate all the different pieces. I'm working in Cricut Design Space. By no means do you have to do Cricut Design Space. I just thought it might be a little bit easier to align. Printing, Microsoft Word, programs like that would also work as well. So here's the bunny, and I have each of the flowers separate for you, the leaves and the bunny separate, so it's easy to hide the different pieces as you print. But so we don't lose that arrangement, I'm going to put it in a shape. And let's make, I think I'm going to do a 7 by 5 card for my bunny, so I'll need to size him. And this is just the front of the card being a 5 by 7, not 0.7. There we go. Now I want both the front and the back of the card, so I'm going to double my height. And so that gives us the whole card. And then we want to make a nice little crease. So that also needs to be the 7, but we want to rotate it so it's long ways. And then I'm going to select that and the card, align, and center. Now this is at the front, so you can't see it, so we'll send it to the back. Let's change this color to something nice, kind of similar to our card, so we can see things on it. So with the score line we just created and that card, we will just hit attach. So here's our card, that's what it's going to look like. And we want the bunny here on the front. Oops. But select everything and arrange it to the front. And we'll just shrink it down to fit on our card here. But right now I'm just going to hit attach so it stays together. And I'm going to select both the bunny and the card. And I want to align it, there it is, horizontally. So that looks pretty good. If I want to do a sentiment on it, I don't really have space for that. I might just do the bunny on the front and then do the sentiment inside. That is also an option as well, but if you wanted, you could shrink it down and add a sentiment. You could still kind of do a sentiment here in the sides as well. A little bit of options, but all this detail, I don't want to lose it, so I do want to make my bunny as big as possible. I think he might be just a smidge big though. There we go. And let's realign it. Move them up just a little bit. Right, I think that looks pretty good to me. So I want to technically do a print then cut. So right now it's going to try to cut all of those, and I don't actually want that. I want to make it a print then cut. So that's how it's going to look. Some of these lines will get thin, but that's okay. And I actually want to detach that as well, because we're going to want to hide different sections. But we also want to attach it all here. Technically, the code was slightly big because I'm doing it in Cricut. It adds those little extra borders. So I just did the auto resize, so it's just slightly smaller than that 5x7, but that's okay. It'll still be good. Also, another thing, if you wanted to do, so now we can go in and we can hide different sections when we need to. If you want, like, the leaf here is really thick, I could also have changed it to a pen if I wanted that thin line. So if you want to do that for different sections, you can do that. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it. So let's do the biggest piece first. Let's do the bunny first, which means I need to go in and hide all of these flowers and greenery. And it'll look just like this. So let's go ahead and make it. And it'll fit on here and it'll print this out, but we do not want to run it through the cutter. We're just going to leave it like this. So let's hit print. My machine is not on, so let me turn that on, and then I'm just going to send to the printer. And my printer is not on either, so I will do that. I'm going to turn off the bleed and just hit print. So now let me go print this, and we'll show you what that looks like. So my laminator here has been heating up for a while. The light is green, and I've had it going for longer since it's an order off-brand one. Just maybe like leave it running for about 30 minutes, even though it says it's ready, just to really make sure it's nice and hot for this. Here is a beautiful sheets here. This one's kind of interesting. It's transparent, so we'll see how it works. We only need one sheet. And so I'm actually going to cut it down. If I go over this line here, it's not a huge deal, but I don't really want to because it will foil that area. And I don't need to waste any, so I'm just going to cut this down a little bit. But our bunny printed out beautifully there. It looks nice and crisp, so I think it should work well. One thing I forgot to do is I want to make a little arrow so I know which way I insert my paper. So I insert it the correct way every time, so I recommend doing that. Now this does have some pattern to it, so if there's a way a certain way you want that pattern to go, just make sure you pay attention to that. And that will also leave those lines, so if I do decide to run it through the Cricut instead of cutting it by hand, the Cricut should still be able to read that. We want, this is the door side, we want this shiny side up. Make sure the entire design is covered. And then, because it's a cheaper laminator, I'm just using computer paper to put underneath to run it through. That way it's nice and thin. And so all that heat gets onto my design. All right, so we have sandwiched between two pieces of computer paper. Foil is shiny side up on our design. I think I'm gonna run it through one more time. Set that aside to use again here. You can let this kind of cool a little bit. It did transfer some, not 100% like I would have liked, but this was kind of a unique foil, so it could have just been, because that's that weird translucent one, so that's why you're seeing a lot of that black. But it's still really pretty, so I think I'm okay with that. So now let's go back into the computer and see how to print the next section. And just so you can see, you can kind of see the bunny through it. There. Okay, so that was printed, so we'll just hit done. My maker's not on, that's all it's saying. And right now we're not using it, so that is fine. So go back and hit cancel. Yes, I want to cancel. And cancel again. Now this time we want to hide the bunny. And let's do sunflowers. So we'll go through and do all of our gold sunflowers. There we go. So those two gold, these two are going to be pink flowers, so we don't want those. So we just turned on the ones we want to print next. We'll hit make it, continue, searching for my printer, that's fine. We'll send the printer and turn off the bleed and hit print. But I need to put my paper in first. And just make sure you feed your paper in correctly so it prints on the correct side. So here is how it printed out, and by just hiding, it's lining it up very well. There is still a bit of the black showing, so I'm a little worried that this might transfer to those black areas. So I'm trying to just do as minimal as possible. Plus we don't want to waste the foil. I might even cut this in half. You can put some heat transfer tape down so it stays. I think once I put this copy paper on top, it'll hold it nicely. Okay, that looks good. Again, this is the gold color. And this is why we do that copy paper on top. We have a little blip over here, and it's picking up the color, but not the best. I believe it's because of my paper. It has some texture to it, and I think it's still kind of a cool how it's doing it, but if you want that solid, then I would do a smoother paper, and like I said, that white paper would have been better. But we're already going, so let's keep going. It is still pretty though. Okay, so we hit done, cancel, yes, cancel. So now we want to hide the gold flowers, and let's move on to the pink flowers. We'll uncover those, and now we'll hit make it. Continue and send to printer. Don't forget to turn off that bleed. We don't want extra ink. And print. So there it is printed out, and we'll get those pink flowers. It looks like just a smidge of the pink transferred here, but everywhere else looks clean and in its perspective areas. So let's move on to the greenery, our last piece. Okay, on to the last piece. Done. Cancel, yes. Cancel. And we will hide the flowers and unhide the greenery. All right. Send printer, turn off the bleed. All right, last piece, the greenery. So here is our piece. We have lots of different colors of foil. A lot of the black is showing, so it didn't transfer as well as I would have liked, but I believe it's because of my paper being a little textured, not completely smooth. A nicer quality paper would be better, but I think it still is very pretty, and you still get that shimmer to it. You can tell there's different colors, so it wasn't too bad to add the different colors. Technically, I could run it through the Cricut to have it cut my code for me, but with those different runs, the little area that the Cricut reads got a little messed up, so I don't think I would trust that. I'm just gonna cut it by hand. and then we just need to write a sentiment in the inside. So I like the code how it is, but I do want to add just a little detail to the edges just to give it a little bit more pop. So I decided to try some embossing powder. So if you've never used this before, we're going to use this ink pad here, and I'm just going to dab it around the edges and then sprinkle this embossing powder on it. This will then stick to this particular ink, and I will use a heat gun to heat it up, which will kind of melt the embossing powder, and it'll turn it from this powder into, it'll melt into the card itself. I'll show you. It's easy to use, pretty cool. There's a lot of different ways to use it. I'm going to just do one side at a time and slowly work around. And I like to leave a paper underneath because I will be pouring this on it. There's going to be a lot of extra that I can then pour back in here. If you get extra embossing powder where you don't want it, you can always use a paintbrush or something to brush off the extra. I love that little detail that added to the edges. It just gave it just a little extra pizzazz. It has a nice little shim to it, and it won't come off now because it's melted into the cardstock. I liked to heat it from the bottom just so that air doesn't blow any of the powder away till it starts adhering. It also gives it just a slight texture what do you think of our Easter card? I think it turned out really pretty, and I think my mom's gonna love this. And I like the different foil we got with it. It really turned out pretty. So you can foil with a laminator and do multiple colors. And don't forget, if you don't have the laser printer, then you can also do this with Cricut foil pen, the foil quill. You could do vinyl. It's an SVG file, and I broke all the pieces down, so you have a lot of versatility to use with it. And you can find the file in a link down below in the description. I hope you had fun crafting with me. Don't forget to write your sentiment inside. You can even do like a little white square inside to write on if you want. And if you make anything, let me know on my social medias by sharing photos. I love to see what you guys create. Happy crafting. Until next time.